I think working with teenagers can be as rewarding and fun as it is stressful and challenging.
My name is Oliver Drakeford. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I have been working with teenagers since the start of my career. I started off as a school-based counsellor, and most recently I was the clinical director of a residential treatment centre for teenagers. Working with teenagers requires a whole skill set that I don't think we're necessarily taught in grad school. So I wanted to share some of the tips and tricks that I've learned along the way that I've also shared with therapists that I've supervised and trained as well. When I think about this generation of teenagers, I often think about the sort of on-demand nature of the culture that they grew up in. So these were young kids who were raised on iPads and tablets and iPhones. And they have grown up in a society where if they don't like something that is supposed to be entertaining them, they can change it. So if they don't like the song, there's a billion others on Spotify. If they don't like what's on Netflix, there's a whole other range of options for them to choose from on demand. And I think this translates to when teenagers today are uncomfortable or don't like what's in front of them, there's an assumption that they can change it. So again, this is a sweeping generalization and not true for every teenager, but I wonder if when things get uncomfortable for teenagers today, they are used to being able to change the channel. And that means when things get rough in therapy or treatment, they're going to want out.
So building rapport and developing a strong therapeutic relationship is so important for working with teenagers.
The rule of thumb for working with a teenager in the first few sessions is to forget everything you've learned. I think the biggest mistake we can make as therapists is to approach working with a teenager the same way that we approach working with an adult. I think this comes from our training, right? We're told and taught in grad school and various training sites that we start the first few sessions talking about the presenting problem. We want to know what we're tackling. The teenagers that don't want to be in therapy, the ones that are being sent by school, by court, or by their family, are going to bristle if you bring up the presenting problem or what the family thinks is wrong with them in the first few sessions, and it's a guaranteed way to shut them down. Teenagers are hungry for a connection with an adult who is interested and curious about their inner world. Access to a teenager's inner world, I think, comes from understanding their interests and their passions. The PDF that's attached to this has a breakdown of all of the questions that I ask teenagers. It's not meant to be a script, so I think hopefully they inspire you to ask your own questions and sort of ad-lib off mine. And more importantly, I sort of break them down into different topics.
The use of object-oriented questions here is really important in developing rapport with teenagers, and I distinguish object-oriented questions and self-oriented questions in the course.
Rather than focus on the problem or the issues that the parents are telling you is the problem, we're going to focus on what matters to the teenager. This is a bit of a psychoanalytic concept, and it's a bit like play therapy. But rather than talking about toys in the sandbox, we're talking about what they play with in their minds.
These questions then not only give you a sense of what's going on in their inner world, but also in their environment and friend groups.
Every teenager is going to be different, so it's important that you have a couple of different categories that you can pull questions from depending on what the reaction is from your client. So I talk about the different topics, I provide questions for each topic, and hopefully it gives you a really good starting position for your first few sessions.